is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Hello.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
That guy used to be our Defence Secretary. Can you believe that? Yeah, of course, we don't have a comedy Defence Secretary now. Thank goodness for that, eh? We have an expert in charge. I can't remember which name he's using at the moment. Some texts and messages and such from last night. Stu texts, as the clocks go back and the nights get darker, me and my family find ourselves staying in playing a game of what biscuit do they eat? The rules are pretty straightforward. We think of a celebrity and try to guess their favourite biscuit. For example, Keir Starmer would obviously be quite satisfied with a rich tea. Nigel Farage would no doubt have any thoughts? A jammy Dodger.
I'm a nutcase.
Exactly. And Rees-Mogg would nibble a Viscount.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Nibbling on a Viscount. Sue says, when those bugs get over here, spelt wrong, put them on a plane and send them to Rwanda. That'll put them off coming through the tunnel, says Sue. There's quite a lot of Rwanda comments. Bill says, can we send the grey squirrels and the parakeets to Rwanda, or do they have their own lefty lawyers to hold things up?
Bill!
Lefty lawyers. Like activist judges. No such thing exists. Lefty like lefty bankers who cruelly prevented Nigel Farage from sticking his money where he wants to. I'll tell you where to stick your money, Nige. I've done the biscuits one. Oh, Tom says, did you ever listen to Roger Waters' rework of Dark Side of the Moon? I thought it was terrible, says Tom. Well, I thought it was great, says Nick. I've only listened to half of it, and it was a bit weird listening to somebody take on that work. But, of course, if anybody's going to do it, he's the bloke, because he wrote it, pretty much. I thought it was, and it sounds fantastic, by the way. It's actually, the quality of the recording, I mean, I know it's brand new, but the sound that you get through your speakers is so much better. I mean, the bass is huge on the rework of Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, those oldsters are really coming back, aren't they? Because people say a lot of good things about the new Rolling Stones album. Rock and roll! So I'll have to catch up with that too. But I'm too busy listening to Yusuf somebody. I can never remember what his last name is. But I've been absolutely mesmerised by the album by Yusuf somebody. Yusuf somebody. Not Cat Stevens, not that Yusuf. There's another one. Mike says, defecting MPs. He's talking about the SNPist. The ex-SNPist. He says, wouldn't it be more honest if MPs wanting to leave a party became independents? They could say that they would vote as before, have the same beliefs as before, only gave up the party whip because of bullying or whatever. No loss of face, maybe a hint of victimhood, says Mike. It just seems bizarre to me that an MP who is elected by their representatives can say, oh, you know what? Thanks for electing me as an SNPist, but I've decided to be a Tory now, and expect nobody to raise a finger of complaint. Well, I'd be outraged. I think that there should be another election, a local election. If you want to switch parties, and you can't just do that, it seems to me logical that you can't just do that to your electorate, because they probably didn't vote for you. They voted for the party, not you. And MPs, I guess they forget this. They think that they are so attractive a prospect that voters are falling over themselves to put a cross next to their name, but they don't. Most people in this country have got no idea who their MP is, but they know who the leader of the party their MP represents is. unless you're a Tory, and then it changes so often. It's really hard to keep up.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's so hard to keep up. I bet you forgot that momentarily that she used to be our Prime Minister until I just reminded you. She was very clear about what she wanted to do.
I'm genuinely unclear.
Unclear. Who talks like that? Paul says, if you want to get rid of bedbugs, you have to nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Yeah, well, they mostly come out at night. Mostly. I was flipping around TV the other night, and it was about halfway through Alien, and I thought, oh, great. But I just couldn't bring myself to watch it from halfway. I thought, no, I'll start from the beginning. It's bound to come around again, and I'll watch it like that. Show it some respect. RPESTCP. Respect. Get Aretha Franklin on the phone and she'll explain. How many more of these have we got? Oh, they come and they come. Nadine says, this is all in capital letters, like she's shouting at me. The Conservatives have done such a good job on crime that they've filled the prisons up. Well, that's true. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I don't know whether it's a good job, but they certainly have filled up the prisons, yeah. Well done, Rishi Sunak, 2 exclamation marks. Would-be rapists need to know that should they ever be convicted, then after waiting for a period of time, they face being sent to a very crowded prison. That should make them think twice. Vote Conservative, says Nadine. I detect a hint of sarcasm running through that. But yeah, there's been quite a lot about prisons. And guess who was warned about the impending disaster that has now come to pass? The government's own watchdog warned 3 years ago that Britain's prisons would run out of space by this year, and it accused the Treasury of failing to provide the vital cash needed to tackle the issue. And which ocean-going dope was the Chancellor of the Exchequer 3 years ago? Step forward, man of the people. Mr. Let's have a chat and a cuppa. Titchy shoe size.
I'm gripping it.
He's gripping it. The government's own watchdog warned 3 years ago that Britain's prisons would run out of space by 2023, and it accused the Treasury of failing to provide the vital cash needed to tackle this issue. The National Audit Office raised the alarm in a report published in 2020, while Fishy Sunak was the Chancellor, saying that without intervention, demand for prison places was on course to exceed supply now. And it has. And here we are, just as predicted, and ignored by a man who has been foisted upon us by as unrepresentative a sample of the population as you could imagine. It's the Boers that prop up the bar at the golf club, and he wasn't even their first choice. We had to suffer the Lisbot to get to him.
Absolutely.
But back with the prisons. The report pointed the finger at the Treasury for failing to provide enough funding to expand the prison estate, and said a need for more places was being driven by the government's own policy of imposing longer prison sentences. And that's the trick they play. And it's not just with prisons, it seems to be with everything. A need for more places was being driven by the government's own policy. What the government says that they'll do this and that, and then they don't provide the resources to make it happen, and then they blame the organisations involved for not being able to cope. Everything else is somebody else's fault with this regime. And it's been that way since Mr. Bobby was in charge. Or at least it was your wife, wasn't it, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
I suppose we're fortunate we weren't being led through the pandemic by Bodger's wife's decorator. At least Carrie didn't delegate. It's a good job, or this country would be covered in hideous, busy little pattern cushions. We should count ourselves lucky that Carrie took her responsibilities as Prime Minister seriously.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Carrie. Meanwhile, the number of people jailed in England and Wales has hit an all-time high. Now, when I read this story yesterday, it was something like 651 places. And that number chimed with me like a bell. Because there's 650 MPs, and there were 651 places. So I thought, excellent. That's like a message from on high. A coincidence? I don't think so. How could we ignore that message? It's a sign So let's lock up all 650 MPs, and we've got one to spare. Any ideas who that should be?
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Exactly. Let's make it happen. Now, not 650. The day after, it's 557 places. Now, I don't know if judges and courts and such were busy overnight, or whether the first one was a miscalculation. But now we've got 557 places left.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And ministers are considering releasing inmates early and delaying sentences for rapists and burglars in a scramble to avoid running out of space. Perfectly normal in a well-run country. I mean, that's assuming they actually catch any burglars. Any evidence that that's likely in the near future? No. Campaigners and prison officers said the NAO, the National Audit Office, reports showed that the government had refused to listen to repeated warnings of a looming crisis. Didn't want to know. Couldn't care less. It's as though they're sort of going through the motions of running the country. That they aren't actually doing it, they're just, I don't know. I mean, what would actually happen if they didn't do it? If they actually didn't even bother showing up for work? I mean, the civil servants would keep the country ticking along, and it would probably be better. Our lives would no doubt be improved. I mean, at least we wouldn't have to subsidise that lot's drink and other refreshments.
Booze.
Yeah, drink and booze. The Prison Governors Association this week told the Independent newspaper that spaces were going to run out without a shadow of a doubt, and the early release scheme to free up space was now inevitable. Early release scheme. What could possibly go wrong? The NAO, National Audit Office, which scrutinises government spending for public services, said the Treasury had allocated investment for prisons well below the level needed. Hey, does that ring any bells?
Yes.
Yeah. NHS allocated investment for prisons well below the level needed. Makes you wonder where the money's gone. I mean, the Tories have added something in the order of 1.5 trillion, not million, not billion, trillion pounds.
What?
Since they came into power, they've added 1.5 trillion pounds. That's a number that's so big, I don't even know what it is. If you put a gun to my head and asked me to write that down in digits, I would not be able to do it. How many zeros is that? All of them. 1.5 trillion pounds. Where's it gone? Anybody have any idea?
No.
No. It seems deliberately obscure. 1.5 trillion. So they deliberately underinvested in our prisons, and now we have the position where we ain't got no prison spaces no more. I mean, it's almost as though we were at the time that the National Audit Offices brought this to the government's attention. It's almost as though we were being run by an incompetent. You know, somebody who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
After 13 years of the party of law and order, we got more people in prison than ever. Which doesn't sound like a ringing success, does it? Andrew Nielsen, Director of Campaigns at the Howard League for Penal Reform, said, prisons create conflict, thwart human potential, put a strain on police and hospitals and cost a fortune. Instead of helping people to move on from crime, too often they do the opposite, which is a coincidence. Because creating conflict, thwarting human potential, putting a strain on police and hospitals and costing us a fortune is this government's number one priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Keep getting that round the wrong way. A Ministry of Justice spokesperson said this government has done more than ever to protect the public and blah, blah, blah. And that the government had taken decisive action to blah, blah, blah. You know, the usual. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hang about, Nick. Listen. Now, what I'm trying to say to you is this, Nick, right?
0345 6060 973. Bath. John.
Hello. Hey, Nick. How you doing?
I'm great, mate.
I tell you what, I'm just sensing I'm not going to go anywhere near the whole kind of Middle East situation because it's far too depressing to get into on your cheery show.
Correct.
But what I am going to talk about is I get a sense there's a bit of quiet kind of manoeuvring going on with Boris Johnson's camp that they think they might be able to kind of manoeuvre their way back in at some point.
Oh my God!
And just today it was said that Boris Johnson in some of these kind of WhatsApp messages said to the experts, does a thing like long COVID really exist?
Yes. Well, he used a very, very bad word beginning with B.
Disgusting.
Yeah, he scribbled it all over it and then said this is another one of those Gulf War syndrome things, implying that people with Gulf War syndrome were faking it. What an absolutely abysmal person he is.
He is an absolute abysmal person. But, I just wanted to count the ways, just in case anyone is of some kind of a delusion that he could come back and save their party, the Conservatives. Right? First of all, this man, right, was hanging from a wire during the Olympics.
Yes.
Right?
You know what? Just on that point, I am furious with whoever let him down. I mean, he could still be up there,
And his family, I won't go into this either. One of his grandparents had a very bad experience with being hung from a high place somewhere in the globe, so he should stay away from high places. But,
right, I don't know anything about that. But
it was his great-grandfather. He tried to do a coup d'etat in Turkey and to get rid of the leader who overthrew the...
like I said, I don't know anything about that, so what else have you got?
Right, no, I haven't got very much.
Sounded very much like a history lesson there for a moment.
I know you don't want one of those.
A history lesson?
But do you remember, Nick, when he rugby tackled that child?
Yes.
I mean, look, how was he ever allowed loose in the public?
He wanted to win so bad that he flattened a 10-year-old. He actually did that. And he leant into the tackle as well. It wasn't like it was an accident. He actually flattened him deliberately.
He's one of those dads that you see at parents' days, and you see it like sports days, and just will like annihilate everybody on the pitch.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the winner, king of the world.
Yes, walks on to clock the referee. Yeah.
Well, this is it, and I'm not going to go into the Zakari thing where he let slip that he thought she was a journalist.
Yes, but it sounds like you just did go into it.
But I'm just drawing a highlight in case these people are kind of building him up.
Well, I've got one better than that. He bravely ran away from a journalist and hid in a fridge.
Oh God! See that is the icing on the cake. They're hiding in the fridge. You can't. I mean, I can't think of a political leader, even the Prince of Scotland in the African country.
Yeah.
That dictator, he never hid in the fridge.
He was shown a picture of a child who was sleeping on the floor in a hospital because there were no beds. And his response to that was to take the phone that the picture was on off the journalist and put it in his pocket and pretend that he hadn't done it.
But there you are, Nick. Tough on truth, tough on the causes of truth.
That's right. All right, well spotted, John. And maintain vigilance at all times, because we don't want to return to the blob.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Anything would be better than that.
Absolutely.
I take that back. Not anything. Most things. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. Text and messages and such from last night. Chris says, wasn't Last of the Summer Wine just the same episode played every Sunday night for 40 years? I tried to watch that once. There wasn't a single solitary laugh in it. I suppose it was one of those things... Oh, I'm going to say something controversial. Oh, no. It was one of those things like Dad's Army that wasn't actually funny. It was just pleasant to spend time in the company of those people. I mean, come on now. When did you ever laugh out loud at Dad's Army? Apart from when the Germans came and they took them hostage in a church and they were taking names. And they said, what is your name? And Mannering said, don't tell him, Pike. Apart from that, when did you ever laugh at Dad's Army? Not really, not belly laughs, no. But it was just lovely to spend time in the company of those people. As much of it was the comedy of repetition. We're doomed. You knew what they were going to say and what they were going to do, but it was the antithesis of them doing it. But as for Last of the Summer Wine, I don't believe I've ever got to the end of one of those programs. But you know what? I mean, you can't argue with its longevity. I'm amazed they all lived that long. Was it the same cast from the start to the finish? How could it be? Anyway, there's more. Can you believe that there's more? He says, wasn't The Last of the Summer Wine just the same episode played every night for 40 years, every Sunday? Anyway, what about the Don showing his billionaire friends nuclear submarine secrets at Mar-a-Lago? Alert, alert.
Warning.
Yeah. I mean, has he ever done anything proper?
Everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper.
He does things proper. He knows words. Luton, Adam.
Oi, oi.
Adam.
Yeah, so I was just calling when you mentioned the prison situation, because I know, like, the past two shows you mentioned you were going to talk about it, and I thought you were going to drop the clanger that there was a proposal to start sending our prisoners to Estonia.
Oh, yeah.
And that really irked me when I heard it, because I thought, well, how comes prisoners get to have longer than 90 days in the Schengen area? I mean, what crime do you have to do now to get your freedom of movement back?
You have to, I can tell you exactly, you have to cheat on your taxes and not be a billionaire. That's the crime.
Where we went wrong.
Yes.
That's where we went wrong. But then I did find out, because I was really like trying to look into the details, because I'm a details man. That's what me and Boris are. We're details. We love details. That the proposal was that even if you serve time, you don't get to accrue days.
You don't claim residence status.
Yeah,
even if
I was really thinking, what crime could I do short of anything of the serious, sins, that I could get my EU citizenship back?
Yes.
But, and I was looking at Estonia and like how they have a population the size of Birmingham, but they only have 3,000 prisoners in their whole country. So they actually have some really famous prisons empty. So I think that's why Suella thought we should send not only the ones who are murderers and rapists that we're not sending to prison anymore.
Well, we aren't catching them, apart from anything else.
Yeah. But, the judges were told not to send them to prison because we're full, but we will send people for doing laughing gas and for talking too loudly outside Downing Street for, mocking,
or standing on a street corner saying,
want to score some pot?
Straight to jail.
Straight to Estonian jail, you mean?
Yeah. That seems like, I don't know what jail is like in Estonia, but I would imagine it would be like a luxury holiday camp compared to what we got over here. How embarrassing is this? Germany twice refused to extradite a prisoner to this country because the jails were not suitable. It was like they thought it'd be like sending them to a third world country. We can't inflict that kind of punishment on even a criminal.
Well, maybe it's because we don't stand up and fight. Because when you stand up and fight,
then the person next to you stand up and fights too. Yeah. All right. Okay. Good work. Thanks a lot, Adam. Sounded like a listener material. Jacob says it's called Greenwich. This is about the clocks. Clocks going forward. The clocks are going to go forward.
Oh no.
Yep. Not next week, but the week after. Why do we have to suffer this every year? Don't get me started on that. Jacob says this is all in capital letters. It's called Greenwich Means Time. It's not. Greenwich Means Time. It isn't. It's called Greenwich Means Time because we invented time in Greenwich. If we don't use it, then it will go off and no one will ever have time anymore. We don't want European surrender time. We want British Greenwich time, says Jacob, who is making as much sense as anybody else has on this show so far.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Listen to him. He knows everything.
0345 6060 973. Tom says, hi Nick, what is the point of voting for Starmer at the next election? Oh, don't get me started, Tom. Not this again. He says it's like jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. A serious party with a serious leader needs to present itself, otherwise there's no point. Stop saying that. That makes me very, very angry. Look at me, I'm furious. Stu, don't make me do the parallel lines thing again. Stu from Ipswich says, "Hi Nick, so the Labour Party is employing Johnson's wife to prevent sexual harassment of women. I guess the idea... I guess the idea is that her presence will keep Boris away from them."
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Let's have, now let me see. Let's have Truro. Ian.
Hi, good evening. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Good. Just going in the front door. I'll give you some fantastic information. You know, in the magistrates' courts, they were told over 12 months ago not to send people to prison. So this isn't kind of new, what's going on at the moment.
Right.
In a bid to make sure that, obviously, so many people going into custody, that the prisons didn't become full. So they knew that this was happening over 12 months ago.
Well, they were warned 3 years ago.
Indeed, and the first action that they took was 12 months ago when they then told people inside the magistrates' courts not to send people to custody. And everybody was up in arms. So, well, hang on a second. You just increased the fines in the courts by 40%. And I'm not sure if anybody knows that.
How do you mean? Who did what now?
So, Mr. Wonderful Sunak increased the victim surcharge on all of the fines within the courts by 40%. So you get fined £1,000 not paying your TV licence. You have to pay 40% on top of that as a victim surcharge levy to the government so they can fund the prisons. So where did all the money go?
Well, that question crops up over and over again. Where did the money go?
Where did it go? 40% of every single fine. So when people think I'm going to get fined £500, you're not. You're going to get fined a lot more than that. And the fines are huge. Some of these fines are in excess of thousands of pounds. So, again, there's a lot of money that's been going back to the Treasury to pay for the places in the prisons. But there is something good that's been happening as well. Out-of-court disposals are where people now don't necessarily go to custody. There's been some fantastic trials which have been going on, and the trials are reporting back that there's only about 20% of the people involved in the out-of-court disposal. That's an agreement, basically, where you don't go into custody and you can serve your time outside. Only 20% of those people have been reoffenders, as opposed to something like 80% of the people that come out of prisons.
But isn't it true that the people that would be eligible for those, what did you call them? Out-of-court
disposals.
Right. Then they wouldn't be the kind of people who would be more likely to reoffend anyway.
Exactly, and that's a small group. It's only 18 to 24s it's sort of been trialled for. I mean, it does work exceedingly well, but I mean, it does show that there, with some extra thinking behind the scenes, it does work. But for the people that need to go to prison, because those people are no longer going to prison with the out-of-court disposals, what that means is there should be more spaces. So something isn't just adding up, and that report, is just literally flying in the face of everybody, isn't it?
Yeah. OK, well spotted. Thanks a lot, Ian. 0345 6060 973. Where the hell's the money gone? Excellent question. There's these reports about Wandsworth Prison. Good grief! This is Wandsworth Prison is what prevented Germany from sending a criminal over here. With only 50% of staff regularly on duty to keep watch, inmates at South West London Prison Wandsworth, at the centre of a recent escape scandal, succeeded in illegally brewing 1,900 litres of alcohol.
What?
Prisoners. 1,900 litres of alcohol they're brewing in their cells. How do they do that? Inspections between June last year and May this at the HMP Wandsworth, which has been described as inhumane, found prisoners were forced to wait days for showers and regular exercise, while the majority of men are forced to share single cells with broken furniture and inadequate heating. It does sound like something out of Victorian England. A report by the Independent Monitoring Boards found that staff were struggling to provide even a limited regime, while the Category B prison had witnessed a 25% increase in the number of assaults, with 10 each week recorded against staff. Well, no wonder only 50% of staff are regularly on duty. Meanwhile, two wings only had 11 shower stalls for 265 men. Good grief. And they were only provided with a 1-hour time slot to queue and make use of the wash facilities. If you don't queue, you don't get a shower. They found that prisoner on-staff assaults rose by 21%, while incidents of self-harm rose by 11%, with 4 deaths reported in custody. The prison repeatedly had no access to hot water or heating during winter months, with regular flooding of cells disrupting entire wings. A new multi-million-pound healthcare centre remains unused despite it opening in October 2021. And a vulnerable young prisoner with mental health issues spent 550 days in the separation unit. Does that mean solitary confinement? 550 days. And as well as illegally brewed alcohol being confiscated from inmates, contraband continued to pose a problem with over 330 mobile phones and 210 drug stashes removed. How do you get a mobile phone into prison, by the way? Don't tell me. Due to the unavailability of staff, the prison is, quotes, severely limited in preventing the influx of illicit items, with drones and throwovers listed as the main means of access. The CCTV system has deteriorated, meaning that security is solely dependent on officers' observations.
What?
You're kidding me. They ain't got no CCTV there. Here's a headline from The Guardian. Inside Wandsworth prison, drug drones and demoralised staff. That was from 7 years ago. I'm reading a report from this week, but the headline in The Guardian, Inside Wandsworth prison, drug drones and demoralised staff, was a story from 7 years ago. So back to today. High staff turnover meant that inexperienced staff with minimal training were forced to work without mentoring, while the library, the gym and inductions were cancelled due to a lack of staff. Detailing his 8-month experience being held on remand at the prison, one inmate told the board there were 87 days without hot water, 89 days without being allowed outside, and only 5 library visits, when it should have been 1 per week. 5 in 8 months. Describing the shower situation on G&H wings as appalling, unhygienic and unacceptable, the board said that daily showers were not an option due to lack of stalls. Inmates were only provided with 1 hour to queue, with officers remarking that men missed their slot if they didn't queue, but by queuing, they missed the opportunity to do anything else during their social hour. God, that's the hour you get to leave your cell, and you have an option. You can do something with it, or you can take a shower. Select. Smashed lavatory pans and sinks led to frequent flooding, while broken windows contributed to the vermin problem as pigeons and rodents posed a serious health risk. But apart from that, how is it?
Dreadful.
I mean, this is embarrassing. In September, a German court rejected the extradition of an Albanian man to the UK over concerns about British prison conditions. It's the second judgment of its kind this year. It's like a third world country here. And in case you think that, well, you know, it serves them right, remember, one day those people will be released. And do you think their experience will make them better human beings or worse? 0345 6060 973. Well, here's a person right on time. Collier's Wood. Hello, Darryl.
Hiya, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I was a plumber in the prison, Wandsworth.
And?
Oh, absolutely, absolute joke. The Ministry of Defence were breaking. I had to send a health and safety executive into the prison because they were allowing visitors to go into F-wing, and on F-wing the gas flue wasn't working, and they could have poisoned all the people that were going into the prison.
Right.
All the children would have got poisoned for gas poisoning. They were getting us to turn the boilers on, and the gas engineer that was working in the prison said, "I'm resigning because if something happens here, I'll end up on A wing." He said, "I'm resigning. I will not take part in this president." And the Ministry of Justice were allowing people to be poisoned in the prison. It's absolute joke.
Well, there's nothing funny about it. I don't recall anybody actually being poisoned, so I don't think anybody was allowing anybody to be poisoned. But if what you say is true, that's pretty abysmal. And again, here is the question. Where's the money gone? I mean, they added £1.5 trillion to our debt. Where did it go? Did you get any? I'll assume the answer is...
No.
No.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. 0345 6060 973. This tweet says, "Hi, Nick. Do you mean Yusuf Lateef?" No. I mean Yusuf Days. Dayes. As an album out called Black Classical Music, which is a superb piece, and I commend it to the House. Guildford. Peter.
Hello, Nick.
Peter.
How's your throat, by the way, Nick?
A lot better, thanks a lot.
Oh, good.
Even if it was bad, you know me, I would never complain.
Whinging, I know you
and
wouldn't.
moaning.
Yes.
I know you never would. But yeah, what strikes me is it seems to me that the public are crying out for an election now. And we're supposed to live in a democracy. We've had 2 prime ministers unelected. You know, we've had the PPE scandal and all that as well.
Yeah, billions and billions and billions of pounds.
Then we have MPs leaving parties and joining other parties just when they feel like it.
Yeah.
Now we've got the prisons and all the rest of it.
And the NHS and you name it, it doesn't work.
What I'm hoping with the next Labour government, I hope we do have one, the next Labour government, is are they going to look into where that PPE money went?
They've said that they will, but I don't believe them. I don't think that any investigation of any kind is going to conclude anything other than lessons must be learned, and that'll be the end of it.
The thing is, they are so inept and so corrupt. The only people they've looked after are the rich and powerful and all the rest
themselves,
of it.
Essentially.
Yeah,
they've looked after themselves.
But what strikes me is we've had an outrage. We've had a mad woman, Liz Truss. We've got this bloke, totally unaccountable. And yet, you know, how do we should have the right, with many, many, many people are demanding, they want a change.
I agree.
We should have a right to call that election.
Yeah, precisely right. But, there's a big but, Peter. Somebody has been... you know that you can have one of these petitions on the Number 10 website, and if it gets over 100,000, then the government thinks about talking about it. They don't have to do it. They just... If you get over 100,000 signatures, they think about talking about it, which is, it's nothing. It's no kind of thing at all.
That's right.
Now, there's been one going for at least a week, maybe even a couple of weeks now. And it's only got about I looked yesterday, I think, and it had about 280,000 signatures.
Which is that all?
Exactly. That's precisely what I thought. Is that all? I mean, everything that's going on, the negativity that people feel towards this regime, the dismal polling numbers, and still there's only 280,000 people who have actually bothered to put their name to this what do you call it?
Petition.
Petition. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry.
Petition. No, thank you. Petition. Yes, exactly right. Which makes me think. I suspect that the polling is flattering the Labour Party. Because when it comes to it, I'm not sure that all of the people that say they're going to vote Labour are actually going to vote.
Oh, don't say that, Nick.
I am saying
my worst nightmare.
And furthermore, I don't think the people that are saying they're not going to vote Tory, I think when it comes to it, they probably will.
And what do we do if they do win, Nick? My God, God help us.
We'll have to go through our family tree and see if we can't find a distant Irish relative.
But then my feeling is that the trouble is, like you say, all the political parties said they don't want to change things. But my view is, if you change leader even once mid-flow, 6 months after that leader has been elected, they should face an election.
Right. You know who you're agreeing with? You know who you're agreeing with?
Who?
who do you hate in the whole wide world more than anybody else? I'll just hazard a guess at the name.
Trump, Thatcher, all of them.
You're getting closer with Thatcher. Here's the guy talking on that very issue.
My view is the change of leader requires a general election. My view is the change of leader requires a general election.
Yeah, you and Jacob Rees-Mogg, you're like two peas in a pod.
I never thought I'd hear that.
Exactly right. The stuff you hear on the radio, Peter? Yeah, I've got to go, but thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, there's a petition online on the Number 10 website. And they run these petitions for a little while, and usually not much comes of it. And even if they get 100,000 signatures, then nothing will come of it, because it's no kind of a thing, really. It's to make it appear as though we have some sort of control, some sort of power, as though our voice means something, but it actually doesn't. Because even if every single person in this country signed that petition, the only necessity would be that they think about talking about it in Parliament. What kind of a thing is that? I mean, what's the point? Maybe people just thought, what's the point? They ain't going to do it. Doesn't matter how many people actually sign it. But at least it would show some sort of, public will. The will of the people. But the will of the people only matters when it is also the will of the regime. Other than that, you get nothing. 0345 6060 973. Sam Batch. John.
I remember the other week you said about the government had dropped any actions to recover the money, and yet the Labour Party this week at the Labour Party conference. Thingy Reeves? Yeah, Thingy Reeves. Mm-hmm. No, I was thinking of Martha and the Van Downs.
Rachel?
No, it's not.
Rachel?
Rachel Reeves. Yeah, she said, we're going to get that money back.
Yeah.
Every penny, it's our money.
I bet zero pennies that they get back. Zero.
Because don't they realise you're on a winner, or could they be incremented in, well, not incremented, but implicit in some way in what's been going on?
Complicit. The Labour Party, what's it got to do with them?
Well, I'm nothing against the Labour Party, obviously, but maybe they've agreed to things that they didn't mean to agree to, and find that all the money's been squirreled away.
I've no doubt that all the money has been squirreled away, probably in some island tax haven with the Union Jack flying from atop the government building. But
will they be singing "Holly Holly Day"?
Were you just doing Madonna?
No, that Boney M song, "Holly Holly Day."
Oh, Boney M, worse, like even worse. Boney M, he was singing.
Oh no!
Oh,
no, and the prison could sell their own beer, call it Jailbreak.
I cannot believe that. Over 1,000 litres of illicit booze they're brewing in their cells. How are they doing that? With what kind of equipment can you brew booze?
Well, the warden and all them must be saying, "Give me half a gallon, will you? I'm taking it home."
Well, it'd be obviously easier to do it if you had the wardens were actually conniving with the inmates in order to. I don't know. You wouldn't think it would give the wardens an easier life if their charges were drunk. So I just don't get it. But I'll just add it to the things that I don't get anymore. Thanks a lot, John. 0345 6060 973. He blotted his copybook there. Boney M. You could only just get away with Madonna. Ahmed from Leicester emails, why should the British people pay millions on an inquiry to find a small amount of people guilty of partying at Number 10 over COVID? And these people get minimal fines when they could have admitted it in the first place. Doesn't make sense. Yeah, some students got a £10,000 fine. You remember that? two nice ladies were arrested by the law for having a cup of coffee on a park bench together. And meanwhile, over at Boris Johnson's place, it was business as usual. I think they're still trying to get the vomit stains off the wall. Text from Tracy. Tracy says, "Hi, Nick. A whole Rugby World Cup is going on in France." Oh, that is fascinating, isn't it?
Boring.
It couldn't be more dull. Don't understand the rugby as a game. I just don't. It's a bunch of steroidal freaks running into each other. How's that a sport? Anyway, Tracy says, a whole Rugby World Cup is going on in France. How come there's no mention of the stadiums being lit up in whichever colour or the rugby players being asked to wear armbands? Why always the football is involved with politics? Yeah, I'm curious about that as well. Why is it football? And you right-wingers, you have to decide. Either you want footballers to stay out of politics or you want footballers to stay in politics. Which is it? Because the amount of grief that Gary Lineker has been getting over not making not sending out a tweet or wearing an armband or making a statement or some such thing about, what's going on in the news at the moment. Whereas previously, if he had made the mistake of actually saying an opinion about the news one way or the other, he would have got it in the neck as well. Why is this man talking about politics? He doesn't know anything about politics. He should just stick to football. And the moment he sticks to football, it's like, why isn't Gary Lineker talking about politics? Pick one. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global. Leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Okie dokie.
Everything is going extremely well.
Everything is going extremely badly. Autumnal sunshine. I'm not ready for that. I'm not through with summer yet. It seems to have gone around particularly quickly this year, doesn't it? Time has sped up. Or maybe it's just getting old. Something like that. Ahmed from Leicester says, why should the British people pay... No, read that one. It's about the minimal fines over COVID and Boris Johnson's business meetings. Still trying to scrape the vomit off the walls. Been there. But just, again, that text from Tracy about, the Rugby World Cup's going on, but there's no mention of stadiums being lit. There's no armbands. There's no taking the knee. There's just absolutely none of that. Why is football the only endeavour that insists on making a stand about this, that and the other? And now that they are in the business of doing that, of course, people object when they don't take a stand about the particular issue that is close to their hearts. So they're on a hiding to nothing. They're going to get criticised for mentioning anything political at all, but they're also going to get criticised for not mentioning the particular political issue that is closest to the hearts of the people that are doing most of the complaining.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Why is it just football? Nobody in the theatre takes the knee before the play starts. People who play tennis don't wear armbands of various hues. Why is it football? Curious, ain't it? 0345 6060 973. Liverpool, Simon.
Hi.
Simon.
Yeah, you were talking about the people, the leaders of the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
And we don't vote for leaders.
How do you mean?
Well, we don't vote for the Prime Minister, we vote for a party.
Well, people, when they go to put their cross in a plywood booth, they have the leader of that party in mind.
They do, but they also vote for the manifesto that party is put forward.
No, I don't believe that. People don't read the manifestos. Even the people who write the manifestos don't read the manifestos.
I agree, but they also vote for the highlights that party put forward.
No, they vote for the person in charge.
Yeah,
they absolutely do.
All.
When people voted Tory last time we were allowed, they voted for Boris Johnson.
100% agree.
Well, that's what I just said. Then you disagree with me.
If you're talking about Boris Johnson, I 100% agree.
Right.
They voted for a person.
Yeah.
That's the only leader I can think of in the last 15 years that they voted for.
15? Well, that's a very specific number.
Well, I plucked it out of the ether.
Right. Well, how about Tony Blair?
Cameron, well, he's not. Yes, I agree.
Right.
They voted for Tony Blair.
Right.
Cameron only got a coalition in his first seat. Name the next Tory leader.
Name the next Tory leader. Well, it was poor Mrs. M with her comedy clown shoes.
And she got almost voted out. Name the next Tory leader.
Well, this is like a test, Simon. No. When people go and vote, they vote for whoever is leading the party. That's their number one choice. It's their second. It might be just that they always vote for a political party. They always have done, and then no one is ever going to change their mind. They're going to vote Tory because they've always voted Tory or Labour or, the Greenies.
Yowza.
Or whoever it might be. But mostly they vote for the leader of the party. Now, I know that technically they don't do that, that they vote for their local representative, but I bet that no one, I'll rephrase that, almost no one has any idea who their local representative is. And they'll never see them apart from on the telly. People vote for the leader of the party. You know that's true.
They vote for the party, not the leader.
Yeah, I know they do, but I don't see why we're arguing about this, Tony. I just threw you. You said they don't vote for the leader of the party. Then I threw two names at you, and you agreed with me that they did vote for those leaders. So I think I'll find myself completely correct in every respect. And you're just too annoying to talk to any further. Sorry about that, but the truth hurts. Great Notley, Ben.
Hello, sir. I've never listened to this radio show before.
Oh, no.
I'm literally in your cab. I'm in a cab, and I've just heard you. You are very, very patronising towards the game of rugby. I'd just like to know your opinion.
Yeah. Well, my opinion about rugby is completely correct. A bunch of steroidal freaks running into each other. How's that even a sport?
Well, how do you base your argument?
That is my argument. There are a bunch of steroidal freaks running into each other. How's that even a sport?
Yeah, but can I just say, have you ever played rugby before?
Played it? No. I avoided playing it at school by skiving off and going to the cafe around the corner and sitting in the basement and playing David Bowie records on the jukebox. Does that count?
Well, there you go. You didn't get picked for it, so you wasn't good enough.
I didn't show up for it.
Was you good enough?
I've never played it. Is this thing on? Hello?
Well, there you go. So you have no opinion. You was never good enough to play it. You're not a gentleman. So please please stop talking about rugby. And
I will talk about rugby. I only want calls about rugby from this moment on. Only calls about rugby on this show for the next 2 hours. I mean it. Thanks a lot, Ben. 2 in a row on the Nicky Abbott show. John via Alexa says, Nick, I was sceptical when I first heard that Roger Waters was doing a rework of Dark Side of the Moon. However, on listening to Dark Side of the Moon Redux, I was blown away. Groovy, man. Yeah, dude, says John, who seems to have been affected in a deep and personal way.
Groovy.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, by which I mean the quality of the recording is phenomenal. It sounds a lot better than Dark Side of the Moon, actually, just the recording of it, the quality of the sound. I'm not saying that it's a better album. It isn't. But you'd have to go some to get a better album than Dark Side of the Moon. Not many have been made. But it's definitely worth listening to, the new Roger Waters rework of Dark Side of the Moon. I mean, spoiler alert, he doesn't do a lot of singing, but then he can't really sing very well. He never could. That's why David Gilmour did much of the singing. And if it wasn't David Gilmour, then he got some other bod to do it, like on Have a Cigar, which was forgotten. I've got a picture of him, but I can't remember who it was. Anyway, that guy. But yeah, so it's mostly like gruff grumbling all the way through. But I guess that's what Roger Waters is known for, grumbling. I mean, I would prefer to listen to Roger Waters' music, but I would prefer to go and have a drink with David Gilmour. 0345 6060 973. Detroit, Michigan. Roland.
Hi, wow. That was quick. Usually I have to wait for half an hour.
Well, I don't want to rack up the phone bill. Go ahead.
I moved to Wales, to an all-Welsh-speaking school, by the way. It was quite funny. And forced to play rugby. It was a nightmare. What a ridiculous game. We're passing backwards. What nonsense was that?
Wrong-shaped ball and everything. Yeah, silly.
No idea what I was doing at any point of the game.
Roland, you should have just skipped it like I did. In fact, I didn't show up for so many times that it came to the point that I couldn't actually show up for games because they wouldn't know who I was.
When I got a bit older, I was able to make those kinds of decisions.
Right. No, it seemed like a cruel
Love the show, man.
Thanks a lot, mate. It seemed like a cruel and unusual punishment to me. Rugby. Cricket was another one. Oh, God. Painful. No, I was out, like sneaking out the side gate with the lads to go to sit in a cafe in the basement for like 2 hours every Wednesday afternoon. And, pretend we were cool. And I recommend that choice to any school person who is listening right now. And that is the official position of LBC. Gavin says, hi, biscuits for Oliver Dowden, ginger nuts. Which is a reference to a text that I was reading some while ago.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Still nobody has explained why it is that football has to be all political and rugby and tennis and cricket and all the rest of it isn't political in any way, shape or form. And yet people demand that football takes a stand on one thing or another. And footballists in person take a stand. But when they do take a stand, people say, why is this person talking about politics? Just, the whole world's gone crazy. Lee from Forest of Dean says, Yusu Ndur isn't Yusuf, but a great musician that you might like. Give him a spin. I've seen Yusu Ndur. I think it was at Glastonbury. Or it might have been somewhere else. Or it might have been someone else. But I definitely saw someone somewhere, if that's any help. Let's have a call in Merthyr Tydfil. Jeff.
Hey, Nick. So very disparaging comments about rugby, old boy.
You believe that?
We won't worry about it.
Yeah. Not a gentleman, apparently.
Gentleman's game and a ruffian's game and all that nonsense. Anyway, this SNP woman who's sort of crossed the floor, whatever. I was reminded of this amazing story. The German Wehrmacht was in total collapse. It was in retreat from the Eastern Front. And groups of them got surrounded and no hope of escape, German units. And up to the last minute, right to the end of the war, Russian soldiers were surrendering to them. They'd cross the lines and give themselves up to the Germans. And the Germans were absolutely amazed. In total desperation. I think that SNP MP could qualify for that.
What, in total desperation? What, it's like she's starving to death. Thought the food is better over on the other benches.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
You keep asking, where's all the money gone?
Where's that money gone?
Yeah, well, it's a Ponzi scheme. It's simple. It's very, very easy to understand. Remember that guy Ponzi in New York? Mm-hmm. He was selling dreams. He was selling these fantastic ideas, and people were investing, and he was using the investment to pay back until finally it all ran out.
Yes.
And, this is what's happening. We've reached, 1.5 trillion the Conservatives have put on. They're selling dreams, aren't they? They're selling dreams, and the money will eventually reach the point where the bond market will not invest in UK bonds anymore. We are now paying 95 billion in interest on the loans that we've taken.
Yes, that's because a certain financial expert forgot to insure the government debt in case of interest rate rises. Who was that? I wonder.
Mr. Rishi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Titchy suit size.
Well, the thing is, you're just involved in a massive Ponzi scheme, and they've looted the country.
Well, if only we were at the top of the pyramid, Jeff, we probably wouldn't be wasting our time doing this. We'd be in a boat showroom, selecting our next yacht. Yeah, I know the view from the top of the pyramid must be marvellous. All right, thanks for the bad news, Jeff. 0345 6060 973. Andrea from Camden says, Nick, you're taking a long time to buffer tonight. Not sure why. It must be Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn. Boo! You see what you've done? Interfering with my buffer. This text says, Nick, did you see that Truss is visiting Ted Cruz now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is good, because if they both stay in the same place, then they're more easily avoidable. He says, I wonder if she'll stop by Bannon's studio next. Thank goodness she doesn't have anything like constituents to represent. Oh, wait. Yeah, she does. Working hard for her constituents. I mean, what an absolute shower, eh? Can you believe it? What have we done to deserve this? I wish I could remember. Must have been really bad. Martin from Chelmsford says, I believe there is room for our miscreants in a certain African country beginning with the letter R. Just an idea. Well, I heard it's a wonderful place and should be top of your holiday destinations. I read that on a football shirt. Weirdly. Tooting. Hello, Jan.
Hi, good evening, Nick.
Jan.
Hi. So I'll keep to. I've got a few points to make. And
a couple of 3 points.
I'd like to share with you because I think they're interesting. It's kind of taken me. Well, I just think it's kind of cleared the air a bit with all this distress with this Palestinian.
No, you're not going to mention the
No. It's just that it's just as that someone was interviewed by a reporter on the pro-Palestinian protesting.
Oh, you're not going to mention the
No, let me say it's quite important because it's interesting because what she said was that it's this pro-Palestinians have nothing to do with, they're not anti-Semitic, and I thought it was an important distinction to make because there's a lot of hysteria on all sides. And what was interesting was that Suella Braverman was saying it might well be a criminal offence to fly the Palestinian flag.
No, not the Palestinian flag.
Yeah, she said...
Well, did she actually say that?
Tens of thousands were marching, tens of thousands throughout the whole of the UK.
Yeah, I know that, Jan.
No, but I caught it. I saw the videos of it later in the day.
Yeah.
But
just as long as you don't bring any of that up on this show.
Oh, no, I don't want that. It's just that you were talking about...
but you are, though. But you actually are.
Want to say, can I say something else and make an important point? Because it's really surprised me. But I found out that half of the population in Palestine...
Under 19, yeah.
No,
under 19.
50% are under the age of 15 years old. And further refine that figure, and then half of that age group are just between the ages of 6 and 12, and I had no idea that there was such a young population.
Right. So you're just repeating what you saw on the news?
No, that isn't what I found that out. I found that out when I was
watching the news.
No, not just on the news, but it's just such a young population there.
Yeah, I know.
And that you mentioned about prisons earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the ones on the pro-Palestinian march are the
so
same.
It's like an open
it's
prison.
Like living in
It's like living
in a big prison.
I know. It's like yesterday's news today. Okay,
Right,
thanks for the update, Jan. Appreciate it, but not on this show. 0345 6060 973. I was hoping to get through, 3 hours, just for 3 small hours during the 2 days of the week where we don't actually talk about the worst thing in the world right now. But I'm cruelly disappointed. Never mind. Better luck next time. Dean from Norfolk says, came all the way to Wales and it's blinking raining. Unreal. It's raining in England. No, I'd come back if it wasn't. Right. You went to Wales and it's raining? Of course it's raining. It's Wales. Spence texts, hi Nick, I know you're not a fan of steroidal chunks chasing a funny ball, but would you please hit your little people soundbite button for all those broken-hearted Irish rugby fans? Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
The little people.
Yeah, there you go. What, did you lose a rugby game? God, that is very, very disappointing. I am so sad. Not remotely interested. Doesn't look like a game to me. Daryl says, I cannot believe the evil NAO is spying on His Majesty's government and grassing them up. No one likes a tattletale, and don't even get me started on the OBR and the ONS. All right, I won't. Jim says, Nick, I don't know why this is, but when you say, what a way to run a country, and it's followed by somebody saying dreadful, I see an image of Angela Rayner in my mind. I don't really know why, says Jim. Jim is obsessed with Angela Rayner. I think that, I don't know, the hair. Should we discuss the hair? A little bit too much. Can we agree on that? 0345 6060 973. Barton Le Clay. Where's that, Ruth?
It was near Luton.
Luton?
Yeah, I didn't choose to be born there.
No.
I was phoned about Gary Lineker, and I thought when he went back to the BBC, he had to sign an agreement not to be political for 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after an appearance. Am I right?
An appearance?
In that?
How do you mean appearance?
On TV.
But he's always on TV.
Exactly. So that's why you haven't heard from him.
No,
his salary must be more important.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were on his salary, Ruth, you'd do anything they ask. Yeah. I'm not sure about that. That's the first time I've heard that. I thought that he got a pass because he was a footballer. Like he's not a newsreader.
This is what I'm asking you. I don't know. That's what I thought. So
right. No, I'm not sure about that. I think he can do whatever he bloomin' well likes because he's Gary Bloomin' Lineker, isn't he?
Oh, I'm sure we'd have heard from him if he could.
Well, maybe he's on holiday. I mean, I think I think the football is off this week, isn't it? Because it's the international. So it would be an ideal opportunity for him to go on his jolly holidays. I bet he's off.
Oh. Maybe we'll be bombarded next week then.
Yeah. I was in a restaurant in South Africa and he walked into the restaurant I was in. I thought, blimey, I must be in the right place. And he walked in with that Scottish guy who used to do a grand match of the day with Alan.
Oh, the one did he die? That one who died.
I don't think so.
Scottish one.
I don't think he died.
Oh dear!
Well, if he did, then I'm very sorry for bringing his name up. But no, it was oh God, I can't remember what his name is. But anyway, he came in with a whole group of people, half of whom he presented Match of the Day with on a weekly basis, and I thought that's a bit weird. Why would you go on holiday with your workmates? because I don't think that the England team was in South Africa at the time. I don't think there was any footballing going on there. It was the middle of the... Well, I guess it would have been the middle of the winter. You don't go to South Africa in the summer, do you? But I just thought that was a bit strange. Of course, they got ushered through to a private area of the restaurant. Ordinary people like me, Ruth, were slumming it in the back. But don't you worry about that. I'll get over it. Just emotionally scarred, that's all. Thanks, Ruth. 0345 6060 973. Di texts... I mean, on that subject, Angela Rayner's hair, I mean, it's just... I mean, I know it's her thing. It's like, Donald Trump's hair is his... In fact, there's a lot of people who do things with their hair that is unusual, that becomes their sort of logo. It's their an embodiment of their personality. It's like a cartoonist can do a quick sketch of just a hair, like a weird floating haircut, and you've got Donald Trump.
Oh, shut up!
Or you've got Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I mean, they've all got a thing with their hair, but Angela Rayner's hair, it's just so distracting. And now it was curly during the... it's all got these waves. You just couldn't take your eyes off it. I mean, her face was right there, and I could not drag my eyes to her face for staring at her hair. It just seems a bit much, doesn't it? Or is that an ungentlemanly thing to say? Hey, and by the way, Keir Starmer...
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
You just don't.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Would you mind telling me what this is all about?
It's about Angela Rayner's hair. I just think it's a bit too much. It doesn't make her look like a serious person. You know what I mean? It's just, it's too voluminous. It's too pre-Raphaelite. It's a bit Burne Jones. You know what I'm saying? It's like her name should be Gwendolyn or something. She should be writing poetry or lying in a river or pulling a sword out of a lake. You know, that kind of thing. 0345 6060 973. Sutton Coldfield. Hello, David.
Hi, Nick.
David.
Yeah, three things. First things first, the footballer you were talking about was Alan Hansen.
Alan Hansen is the correct answer.
Thank you.
I'm pretty sure he came in with about 10 people, and I'm pretty sure that Alan Hansen was one of them, and I could swear that Alan Shearer was one as well, although I was quite refreshed at the time.
Booze.
And it was a couple of years ago now, so I can't be 100% certain, but it was an entire table of people that looked to me like they'd just come straight from filming Match of the Day. It just seemed a bit weird that he would go on holiday with them.
Yeah, well, I think it's a small community, isn't it, the football community?
Yeah.
So they're all probably mates. The other thing was, I think the Lineker issue is the reason why I don't think he's talking is because the BBC have a new social media policy, and I suspect it's got something to do with that.
But I thought he swerved round that. I thought that he got a pass because he's not a news presenter and he's not, he just does sports. Plus, he's paid all that money.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why he's paid all that money because his presence does not affect the audience of that show. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not good at his job. He absolutely is, and he knows his stuff, of course. But if Match of the Day was on and it was being presented by the other bloke, Chappers, then you wouldn't think, well, you know what, I'm not interested in Man City versus Man United this week because Gary Lineker isn't going to be introducing it. It has zero effect on the audience figures, and yet he's the number one earner over there. I just don't understand the concept, although I like him as a broadcaster.
Yeah, no, that is a weird one. But I think it's that social media thing's come out since the whole sort of 1930s Germany comment.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last thing was, I heard you talking about Yusuf Days, and I agree with you. Genius, brilliant album. I actually saw him at the Royal Albert Hall the other day.
Did you?
It was brilliant. absolutely top notch.
It's quite Robert Glasbury-ish, isn't it?
I don't know who that is.
Robert Glasper. You've got a lot of pleasure to come, David. Write that name down, Robert Glasper. And you can thank me later. No, wait. I've changed my mind. You can thank me now.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, David. Yeah, that album by Yusuf Days, Dayes. I've been listening to that on constant repeat for about a week now. It's excellent. It's called Black Classical Music, as in jazz.
Yowza.
Let's have a call in. Who's been waiting the longest? Let me be totally fair about this. Swansea. Carey.
Hi, Nick. You right, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Well, I was going to call about the rugby, mate, but there's a more important debate around the hair, all right?
Yes.
You're focusing on the wrong MP. It's Michael Fabricant for me.
Oh, well, I mean, that goes without saying. Yeah, I mean, what on earth is that is atop that man's pate? But
I think maybe the toupee is invented around him.
It looks to me like, I mean, I know I've said this before, but you know those restaurants that have plastic versions of the food in the window? It looks like a plastic plate of pasta that someone has upended on his head. I don't know what is going on there.
But it's been left there for 3 years.
Yeah, it couldn't possibly be a wig because A, no one would make a wig that looks like that, and B, no one would buy one that looks like that, which means it must be his hair, or he's an alien from space, and that's what the top of their heads look like.
Massive potential there, mate. Regarding the rugby, not to go off track, not a fan. Bores me.
Now, I don't think it's legal to say that in Wales, is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
It is. Well, if you're in Swansea, I say it. But jokes aside, I don't agree with a sport where you see people coming out years later with dementia because of it.
Right. Yes, exactly.
There's a Welsh rugby great, Ryan Jones. He's been diagnosed with early onset dementia, and there's a massive legal case between the Welsh Rugby Union and former players.
Is that right?
Suffered dementia.
Well, you know, footballers have the same thing with heading the ball. In fact, I think the FA recently said that kids under a certain age shouldn't head the ball, as though that makes any difference.
Exactly, and then they teach rugby to kids. Don't get me wrong, they do touch rugby, all right? They got flag rugby. It's like they got a little thing around their waistline, they've got flags, and 2 flags are lost, right? You've got to take a timeout, all right? The full contact starts anywhere from 7 to 8 years up.
7?
I know.
That doesn't sound like a good idea to me.
No. Just before I go, mate, what's your favourite David Bowie song?
Oh, blimey. My favourite David Bowie song?
I heard you mention That's What You Used to Get Away. Me, personally,
right.
I went to learn how to play a brass instrument, so it wasn't David Bowie, all right?
I'm going to say Panic in Detroit.
Oh, great choice.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Choice.
Appreciate it. So I passed that test. Thanks, Kerry. 0345 6060 973. Di says it costs about £40,000 a year to house a prisoner, and about the same for Eton. I wonder if the prisoners could be sent to Eton instead, or maybe a swap with a future Tory in the making. Could be an interesting experiment, says Di. Yeah, I'd pay a lot of money to see that. Not £40,000, but, you know, a couple of quid. I'd subscribe to a new TV service to see that. Oldbury, Ranjit.
Hi, Nicky, okay?
Ranjit, have you been frying tonight?
I have, yeah.
And what was the most popular item on your menu? Mystery meat.
Yeah. I can't say. I told you about my scrumping habits and everything, so it was kebabs today.
Kebabs. Right. So like I said, mystery meat. What is a kebab? Seriously, what is that stuff?
It's lamb meat mixed with herbs and spices, and then it just kind of rotates on a...
Stray pets, that sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's nice. I had a kebab burger today just before I left the shop, yeah. Right, you know, you're talking about trying to make people vote, yeah?
Yes.
You know, these silly programs like Love Island and Get Me Out of Here, whatever they are. I'll never watch them.
No.
I mean, I've stopped watching television I listen more to the radio now,
yes.
Especially like LBC. So if you want to get people to vote, you need to stick an advert in there, because most people, right, watch those kind of silly programs and waste their lives away. Yeah,
They do. Yes.
I mean, come on.
I can understand that, though. You know, it's like putting your brain in neutral and just coasting for an hour or so. I get that. I mean, some people like to meditate, and some people like to watch those stupid shows where people can't dance or can't sing.
An hour or so is okay, but these people watch it like religiously, don't they? And then they want to just emulate these people. I remember this guy used to come in my shop. Yeah, I mean, I'm not making fun of him, right?
But
he used to sit outside smoking 2 fags at one time. But
What?
His family he used to smoke 2 cigarettes at one time. Yeah.
And wait. Do you mean one after the other in quick succession, he actually had 2 lit? And he was smoking both. I've never seen that in my life.
No, I did. So because they're old family friends. His grandmother was friends with my mum. Yeah. So I asked him. I said, "What's your problem? Why you smoke 2 cigarettes at one time?" He says, "Look, listen. This is what happened." He says, "I was watching Big Brother 24/7 and drinking a litre bottle of whiskey." Yeah?
Wow.
And he goes, eventually it made me that ill. I thought everybody was watching me and I was, being followed, and he had to seek psychiatric help. And that's no word of a lie. That's how some of these programs can make people...
But hang on a minute. What's the answer to why was he smoking 2 cigarettes at a time?
Because that was part of his escapism from it. Yeah, he'd sit there on the wall smoking 2 cigarettes. And that's
how did he hold them? Did he hold 2 cigarettes? Hang on a minute. One in right, okay.
One hand. And then
so he would take a draw of the one in his right hand and then take a draw of the one in his left hand?
No, he'd put them both. He'd use both of his hands and put them both at the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time. That's why I asked him. I said, "Look, what's your problem, man?" I said, "You all right?" And that's what these programs do. And you know the other one...
You know what? Hang on. Wait.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what those programs do. I mean, those programs are watched by millions of people. I have never heard of anybody smoking 2 cigarettes at one time, let alone 1 cigarette in one hand and another cigarette in the other.
That's what he did. No, look, listen, I'm not, I don't lie, yeah?
Maybe it was your food that did it.
No, and he said honestly he had to seek help eventually,
right?
Because he was so embroiled in watching that program and drinking the booze as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's the booze.
It made him go to lally.
Yeah, well, I think drinking a litre. Wait a minute. I think drinking a litre of whiskey a day might have been the thing that did for him more than watching some stupid TV program.
Yeah, but, I'm not trying to. The other program that used to come in the mornings where you had these DNA tests and everything, right? That was, in my opinion, that program, right, was the University for the Unemployed, right? Because that's what they used to watch and they used to emulate that. Okay, I want to get onto the...
Hang on a minute. Wait. How did we get on to any of this? I mean, first we were talking about getting people to vote, and then suddenly we just took a massive left turn.
Yeah, but that's where, if you want to get people to vote...
Put an advert on those shows.
Put an advert, that was what my issue was with that.
Right.
And regarding hair, right, I went to school in India, I went to school in India for 2 years when I was a little, because we lived there, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
If you went to school without any hair oil in your head, you got sent back home and you had to get hair oil in your hair.
Hair oil? In your hair?
Yeah. And the reason for that, right, is, okay, this is nowhere, you hear about these Indian head massages.
No.
Okay, look it up. Get your
I most certainly will do nothing of the sort.
Okay. You have these Indian head massages with oil, which is supposed to make the blood flow better and your brain work better. And that's
well, that sounds great. Get me one of them head massages. I see. I can't even say it. I need one immediately, if not sooner.
Head massage. Indian head massage. Right? I'm sure other people will tell you. When you're feeling kind of sleep, when you're feeling kind of unclear, I get my wife to about once a month, right, put a bit of hair oil in my hair, massage it, leave it, then shower it off. But these guys don't shower it off. And regarding Mr. Fabricant, you know, because he's a local MP, so we see him on the news a lot here. You know, the days when he's, like, twisted to one side, you think, hang on, mate, listen...
It's about to fall off.
And I used to know this guy when I used to deliver parcels, right? He'd be carrying a parcel on one shoulder, and if it was windy, right, he'd have his hand on his head, right? And some days, when he'd been, like, sunbathing and it was twisted, right, you'd have, like, a dark patch on his forehead and a light patch where the hair's moved the other way, the wig. Yeah, and it's just so funny when you see. I see Fabricant, right, and he makes me laugh, right.
I think that's the idea.
You know, he knows that you're laughing at him, right, and I think he gets a kick out of it.
Well, he must know that people are agog at whatever it is that sits atop his head. I mean, how could you not be? He knows what he looks like, surely. But I got to get. But the head massage is for when you feel unclear.
I'm genuinely unclear.
I know somebody who needs that. Got to go, Ranjit. Thanks a lot, mate.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Are you trying to tell me that this is your act?
Sadly, yes. Let's have a call in York. Jan.
Hello, Nick.
Jan.
How are you?
I am great, mate.
I had to ring when you said you used to skip rugby.
Yes.
Well, we used to skip hockey, and we used to go and hang around the local theatre. It was when all the stars used to tour around the country, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
No.
All right. And
Which stars? Which stars are you talking about?
You know, the Beatles and all the Americans used to come over, didn't they? Rock and roll!
Those people.
And they all used to, you know, tour around the country. And they all used to seem to stop in York on the same day as our Games Day. So we used to skip hockey, go around the theatre and see if we could get their autographs.
And
sometimes we're lucky, but not always.
Did you get the Beatles autographs?
No, unfortunately, I didn't get the Beatles.
Because I've seen on...
Go on.
I've seen on the Antiques Roadshow that if you had the Beatles autographs, Jan, you'd be a millionaire.
I know. I think I saw that. Yeah, no, I didn't get them. I got Jerry Marsden's, though.
Oh, yeah.
And Jerry Lee Lewis.
Did you? Jerry Lee Lewis, eh?
And do you remember Gene Vincent?
Of course. The Man in Black.
Yeah, I've got his.
Ian Jury wrote a song about him. Blue Jean, baby.
All right. Yep. And I've got Cilla Black.
Now, when you say you got these, did you actually get to see them, or you were just hanging around the stage entrance, screaming your face off?
Yeah, well, you used to have to hand your book in, and
really?
they used to sign. We think it was them that signed it, but you never
it could
know,
have been anybody. Oh, that's terrible. So you just gave your book in to the bloke on the stage door, and he said, "Well, leave it with me."
Yeah,
and he came back,
right.
and there was scribbles on the page, but it could have been him. What did it?
It could have been anybody, but I think it was great. You know, I think it was really them.
Yeah.
Hopefully, anyway.
Weren't you ever found out by school?
At school? Well, no, not really, because you know there was plenty that did stay and play hockey. All the other people who were good at it.
Isn't it amazing how it used to be? Because I skipped all games because it was cricket in the summer. Boring! And it was rugby in the winter, and I hated both of those. And I just wasn't remotely interested, and neither were a bunch of my mates. So we skived every Wednesday and went to sit in a cafe and, order one coffee and sit there for about 2 hours and kid on that we were cool. And no one said a word. I mean, you could not possibly get away with that these days.
No, it was amazing, really. And it was a lot better than running around the field, getting hit on the legs with the hockey ball, you know.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Terrible.
And by that method, you got an education in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you'd have been
really good.
You learnt a lot more than jolly hockey sticks.
Yeah, those were the days.
They were. I mean, it really is extraordinary because, I mean, every now and again you'll go to a place and you'll see, a bunch of kids who have been taken on a trip, like Kew Gardens or, a park or something like that. And every single child will have their high-vis jacket on, and there'll be a teacher at the front of the conga line, and there'll be a teacher at the back, and two riding, like, shotgun on either side. And every time they stop, they'll do the roll call, and everybody has to say their name, and yes, I'm still here. And but in those days, when I were a lad, we used to, because the sports field was not part of the school, we had to go almost across town, or at least like half a mile away, and you had to walk there. And no one took your name when you got there. So anything could have happened. It was just different times, eh?
We had to go straight from lunch to the hockey field, and it was about a mile from school. So, of course...
And you just walked? You were supposed to walk there, a mile?
Oh, yeah. We had to walk. And so we just walked the other way.
yeah, exactly. Yes. Just walk the other way. Simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, yeah.
It is remarkable, actually, how things have changed. And I don't think that, dangers are any more prevalent now than they used to be. It's just that we knew less about them then because, we didn't have constant 24-hour-a-day news and the internet and all of this bad stuff.
You didn't have a phone in your hand either to phone
exactly.
Your mother
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Their parents had no idea where you were.
Exactly.
Uncontactable.
Yep.
So you didn't actually get to meet any of these people? You just...
No,
right.
Unfortunately we didn't, no.
Right.
We saw them going in.
Ah.
But we didn't actually,
Well, couldn't you just, throw yourself at them and ask for their autograph on the spot?
Not really, because there was not many people there,
Right.
But, yeah, it was great. Better than hockey.
Yeah, exactly. Better than hockey, better than rugby, and better than cricket. Sitting in a cafe playing Play That Funky Music White Boy by Wild Cherry.
Rock and roll!
Can't believe I can remember that, but
Very good.
I know.
And in the summer it was netball, and that was just as bad, so, we have to skip that as well.
Well, at least netball probably wasn't painful, though, was it? I mean, if you got whacked on the shin with a hockey stick, then you'd know about it. But netball, it's like basketball, but even more boring.
Very boring.
Yeah.
Awful.
I used to see at the comprehensive that I went to, I used to see the girls play netball, and it didn't look like anything at all. It was like, you'd move a little bit, and then you'd have to stand on the spot and
you had to wear those awful divided shorts. They look like a skirt, but those shorts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Yeah.
Terrible things.
Yeah, at least we lads didn't have to wear those. All right, thanks a lot, Jan.
Oh,
cheers, my dear.
Right.
Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. And you tell that to the young folk today, and they won't believe you. This text says, I think that Fishy Sunak said in January, judge me on the work I do this year, especially my 5 priorities. I don't think he has managed to do any of them. Do you? Well, let's examine his top priorities and see if he's done any of them.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing on stopping the boats. And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities, stopping the boats. And I think people know that I'm working night and day to stop the boats. I firmly believe that that's what the country wants me to do. That's what the government is committed to doing, and we're working night and day to stop the boats. That's what the country wants us to focus on, and I will keep at it.
He is giving it 110%.
I am totally 100% on it.
OK, just 100%. That is all he thinks that we're worth. Thanks a lot, Fishy, for all of the good work that you do. Oh, Struth, did you see that video that he put out today?
Fabulous.
Oh, wow, that just tops all. Well, I'll talk about that in the next hour. That video, if you haven't seen it yet, then you are missing something excruciating. I also want to talk about the possibility of tax cuts, because our wide-eyed Chancellor... Why are his eyes that wide, by the way? I mean, can he actually blink? It's the skin on his face is stretched so tight, he's practically wearing his bottom as a hat. He says that he's got no room to cut taxes before the next election. Yeah, I don't think he's being truthful. So I'll talk about that and much else besides. 0345 6060 973. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're joking.
Right, so what we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, by the way.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol, in which the delightful Carol McGiffin and I try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. Now, if you want us to have a bash at your issue, then you must send it to the following address: nickandcarol@global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com. And prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? If you wish to be amused, it'll be right up your alley. Heston, Isaac.
Oh, good morning.
Yes, Isaac.
Yes, two quick things. The first one, okay, which will be extremely quick. I just want to let you know that I actually share a birthday with Carol McGiffin.
Do ya?
Yeah. We were born on exactly the same day.
I've got no idea what her birthday is. I should know that, shouldn't I? What day is it?
18th of February.
18th of February, right.
Yeah.
I'll have to make a note in my diary not to buy her anything.
Okay, so what will be interesting to know is which one of us is older by a few hours.
Oh, it'll be Carol.
What?
Yeah, much older. Yeah, I would expect
much
that.
older. Okay,
yeah, much older.
Right.
Yeah.
The second thing is like Carol, I went to a senior school from 1971 to 1976 when I left. Okay.
Yeah.
I went to a senior comprehensive school in Luton in Bedfordshire. Because earlier one of your callers was from Barton-le-Clay, you know, and I recognised it because that's just 6 miles north of Luton, up the the A6 or the old
Sounds
A6.
very fancy schmancy to me. Barton-le-Clay.
It is,
it is the French word for the in there.
It is a bit, it is a bit posh, and also, I used to fancy a girl from Barton-le-Clay, you know. So, but anyway, won't go on about that.
Yeah, but you have though, Isaac.
Oh, see, okay.
On and on and on, obsessed you are still to this day. I can't believe it.
About sports, right?
Yeah.
In my school, which was a school near Luton Airport, right? Okay, we had attached to the school, we had our own massive playing field, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do PE.
When I went to a comprehensive in Essex, we had one of those as well, and I bet it's now tiny little charmless houselets for as far as the eye can see, because that field used to be massive.
I think the same might have happened to... I haven't made any inquiries yet, but I think the same might have happened to my Luton Comprehensive.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we had a massive playing area. We called it the Rec.
Yeah, the Rec, yeah.
Short for recreational ground.
Recreational ground, yeah, recreation ground, yeah.
And he had loads of football pitches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, in between my school and the recreation ground, we had built an all-weather pitch for all sports.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah, and we played hockey, did athletics, blah blah blah, and also while I was at school, my school wasn't a rugby playing school. I played it twice. Okay, at my comprehensive school.
That's plenty, isn't it? Really, I mean that's that's enough to know that it's no kind of game that a person should be playing.
That's right, and I learned 2 skills. How to run fast and pass the ball off quickly.
Yeah, just get rid of it. Yeah.
Oh, and finally,
in conclusion, yeah.
In conclusion, right, we had a teacher come to our school. I think it was during my 2nd or 3rd year, because the year system was different. I think it was during my 3rd year at senior school. We had a guy from Wales called Mr. Hughes, right? In fact, he came from another Luton school, and apparently he said to the year below, right? He said to the year below us, if you don't play rugby, you won't play football. I thought, what? That's what he said, because
you have to go through one to get to the other. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for the update on your upbringing, Isaac.
No problem.
I definitely thought that was going to go somewhere, but it didn't. Never mind. It was amusing while it lasted. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. He just wanted to tell us about his childhood. Why not? It fits right in. Let me see now. This one says, Daphne from Cambridge says, Last of the Summer Wine is just watched by boring old people. The actors are all rubbish and it's all repetitive. At least Dad's Army has proper actors in it. Well, Dad's Army does have proper actors in it. There's no doubt about that. As for it's watched by boring old people, well, I would imagine it is. Yeah, it looks like it's made for boring old people. Or just old people. They don't necessarily have to be boring, Daphne. Although, if you do watch Last of the Summer Wine, that is a pretty good indicator of being boring. So she might be right about that. Jane says, Nick, the blocks go back. I don't really know what that means. I mean, the clocks are going back, that is certain. But what she means by the blocks go back, I don't know. I've got no idea what's going on in this programme. You believe that? It's my show. Roger from Orpington says, if things carry on the way they are, by 2025 there'll be more people in prison than out. Yeah. I think that they're going to install CCTV cameras in those plywood booths at the next general election. And if you put your cross in the wrong square, straight to jail for you, sunshine. Mary says, oh, do cheer up, Nick. We'll start to have lighter evenings in 67 days.
What?
67 days? Oh, I can't stand it. This is the earliest I've ever thought of putting the Christmas lights on. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but just driving into work in the dark and it's blooming freezing outside and it's raining and I thought, oh. And the clocks are about to go back. And I thought, is it too early to put the Christmas lights on? Yeah, it is way too early. Don't even consider it. But I've never thought of that before. Is that a sign of aged decrepitude?
Yes.
Thanks. Julian in Finchley says, the quicker humanity dumps religion, the better. It's seriously holding us back from making actual progress. It promises all the answers, but causes only problems. Well, you get no argument about that from me. And John in Manchester says, what's your show going to be like once Starmer wins? Well, it'll be much the same, I would expect, other than me complaining about what he's doing wrong. Edinburgh, Martin.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Martin.
I think the Conservatives may well win the next election. I think you look at, low unemployment, low crime, equality laws. I think a lot of people are going to be...
Low crime?
Yeah, crime has been going down since 2010, actually.
Well, crime has been going down for a lot longer than that.
It's been going down since the 1990s, but it's continued to go down since 2010. And
but you could say that it's gone down, or you could say that we have a chronic failure of catching criminals. Now, the two may be connected.
They may be, but, the Conservatives have passed the Offensive Weapons Act. And
well, you can pass any kind of act you like. You have to back it up with actual police persons on the street catching crims. And there's precious few of that about.
Yeah, I've worked in prisons and in mental health hospitals, and one of the biggest drivers of crime is really drug use. And so I think...
Well, one of the biggest drivers of problematic drug use is poverty. And, and that has definitely gone up since the Tories took over, no doubt about that. So you're completely correct.
Well, yeah, I work in a mental health hospital, so when I see drug use, it doesn't always correlate with wealth. I think you do need to get tough on drugs if you want to keep crime rates as low as possible.
Martin, they have been tough on drugs. They've been tough on the causes of drugs, and tough on people taking drugs, and tough on people selling drugs. And it don't make no never mind. People have always taken drugs, and they always will take drugs. If your position is that we can win the war on drugs, then you've lost before you've started.
Well, look at East Asian countries, though. Look at South Korea.
Thailand.
No. Places like South Korea, Japan, they're very tough on drugs, but it works effectively there.
You're telling me that no one takes drugs in those places? Please.
I'm saying the rate of drug use is incredibly low in those countries compared to, the United States, which has been far more permissive on drugs.
Half of the people in American prisons are in jail for drug-related crime.
But if you look at places like the West Coast, like San Francisco, Portland, they've been really relaxed about drugs, and it's just led to an increase overall.
Well, I think people who take drugs tend to be attracted to places like San Francisco, so the causation might not be as you describe.
It may have an effect, but, around the world, I think tough on drugs approaches do tend to work more often than they fail.
But they don't. They've failed in every country they've ever been tried, which is why some of the more intelligently run countries are reconsidering their position. We, on the other hand, in this country, are still of the stick opinion, like that. Yeah, it hasn't worked up to this point. Why would you assume that it would work post this point?
Well, I do think it has worked in the countries I've mentioned.
It hasn't, though, has it?
Well, is Japan a high crime society? Does Japan have a large amount of people taking drugs? I think it has worked effectively.
I don't know what the crime rate is in Japan, but it doesn't really make it doesn't make the slightest bit of difference. We're talking about chalk and cheese here.
Well, we're all human, I think.
Is Portugal a high crime country?
The crime rate in Portugal is higher than the East Asian nations. But
we're not comparing ourselves to East Asia. Well, let's talk about Europe. Let's talk about countries that are more like ours, societies and people that are more akin to ourselves. Is the crime rate in Portugal higher than it is here?
I'd have to look at the details.
Right, so I'm going to go ahead and assume no, because we have we incarcerate more people in this country than I think any other Western European nation, apart from, I think, weirdly, Luxembourg, which is such a small and bizarre place, and I know of which I speak because I lived there for 6 months, that it's not really any basis for comparison. But we are tough on drugs, tougher on drugs than pretty much any other Western European country, and yet our crime rate is higher, Martin. So it's the inverse of everything that you're suggesting. Better luck next time.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Oh, hello.
0345 6060 973. This tweet from last night says, according to Jeremy Dangerous Name, Jeremy Hunt, Britain's finances have worsened since the spring, and he has promised that difficult decisions must be made. Now, I'm no economist, says this message, but maybe the government should try turning the economy off and on again. It can't be much worse than what they're already doing. Yeah, that's right. Jeremy Hunt's talking about tax cuts. and how he is making difficult decisions. Jeremy Hunt has warned he is preparing for the worst ahead of his autumn budget. The Chancellor said the world is in a very dangerous place. Yeah, the Milky Way. We're in a terrible neighbourhood. The Governor of the Bank of England sounded his own warning on the economy. He said... Warning, warning! Jeremy Hunt, speaking about whether households could expect good or bad news at the autumn statement next month, said it's a bit of both. Well, pick one. He said he hadn't got any idea. The bad news is that tax rates are going to stay high until he cuts taxes just before the next general election. That's the bad news. The good news is that it's going to come a day after the next general election. Chancellor Jeremy Hunt said, I think the British economy, compared to when I became Chancellor a year ago, has proved to be much more resilient than nearly every international organisation predicted, and people are looking at some of the underlying strengths. I'll translate that for you. He said Britain's yearly debt interest payments will be up to £30 billion higher than had been expected just months ago. Yeah, so it's a good job that Fishy Sunak, Titchy Sunak, said when he was Chancellor, made certain to ensure government debt against rising interest rates. Otherwise, it would have costed us about £40 billion. And that's exactly what didn't happen. He didn't insure against rising interest rates. So he, personally, Rishi Sunak's cost this country £40 billion. And somehow he seems to have gotten away with it. How did that happen? Last year, the Dreer leader, the then Chancellor, Titchy Shoesize, failed to insure government debt against interest rate rises. Now, even a dope like me would have thought that interest rates would have gone up, you know, being as though they were historically low, and that basic schoolboy error from the man in the schoolboy's clothes cost us £11 billion then. And it's going to cost us 10% of all government spending this year, just paying the interest on what we've borrowed. 10%. Just because Rishi Sunak isn't very good at his job. We have a massive amount of inflation index linked. I mean, you can insure against interest rate rises, but Mr. Moneybags didn't. Maybe he was distracted by maybe he was just running out of Brill cream.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just
don't. I don't know how he managed to put all of that product in his hair without it falling off. Good news, though, Andrew Bailey out of the Bank of England did at least say that things in the UK look a lot better than they did a year ago. Bad news, he's referring to the mini-budget chaos a year ago caused by Liz Truss last autumn. You are one of a kind, Liz. Well, let's hope so.
Absolutely.
Bailey said, we have made, I think, particularly in the last few months, solid progress in terms of showing signs that inflation is being tackled. We have the third highest rate of inflation in the first world. That's actually true. It goes Argentina, Turkey, then us. The third worst in the first world. Andrew Bailey said, let's not get carried away because there's an awful lot still to do. Well, I'm for letting them get carried away. Who's with me? Show of hands. Here are the countries that have a lower inflation rate than we do. China, Netherlands, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Japan, Spain, the United States, South Korea, Singapore, Canada, the Euro area in general, Mexico, Germany, South Africa, France, India, Brazil, Italy, Russia. Russia has a lower interest rate than we do. Inflation rate than we do. Australia, and then us. And then it's the Turkey and Argentina, which is like way off the scale. But, you know, apart from that, how are they doing?
Dreadful.
Yeah. 0345 6060 973. Harrow, Jonathan.
Quick. Hello?
Yes, Jonathan.
Quit. This country first was thought has been.
This is a very bad line, Jonathan. I can barely hear you. It's a dream come true.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was saying my throat is injured.
Your throat is injured.
Stop whining.
Why is that?
Because I went to the amateur boxing viewing a few weekends.
The amateur boxing viewing?
And it is, I also did, enrolled into a gym in London.
You did what now?
And a gym.
A what?
Boxing gym.
Oh, a gym. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to a boxing gym, yeah.
And it is all now the Eastern European fighters, because the British men's are all, they're doing the woke stuff.
The wokey-cokey.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
They are, one thing is called the grappling, where you roll about on the floor with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
For the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, now, I wanted to do it with a man, I wanted a male partner, but a girl, 18 years old, she choked me 3 times.
Right. But not quite enough, I suspect.
And I can't tolerate the economy anymore. Can I say a few things, please? No. The more time I spend with the public now, everybody has become... Today I did some social activities, and people are just on edge now. Even... I know you don't like Rishi Sunak. I was in Kolkata when he got elected. I was so happy because he's a British Indian man. And when he was being interviewed by one of your boys on the station, for the first time, Rishi started to he looked irritated now.
Yeah, tetchy. Tetchy Sunak.
Because he usually looks very like a lovely man.
Well, let's not get carried away. Did you get hit in the head a lot when you went to that gym?
They choked me.
They choked you, you're right.
And when you go to the amateur fight, everybody's having the punch-up in the crowd.
Yeah.
The
crowd, yes.
That's true.
Yeah, you went to a fight and a boxing match broke out, right.
And the younger generation now, no.
Oh, this line is really cracking up, Jonathan, and unfortunately I can still hear you.
Can I say one last thing?
One in closing, yeah.
Because what is now happening is I was on the train and you've got all of these feminists who are waiting on the train and you can't talk about nothing, and there are 6 topics you can't talk about. The rap music is persuading everyone to be pregnant, and young people are all wearing rainbow underpants. It's true.
The rap music is telling everyone to be pregnant, and they're wearing rainbow underpants. I don't think you're going to top that, Jonathan. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, mate, for, whatever that was. 0345 6060 973. Oh, did you see Rishi Sunak's video today? Oh, struth. Oh, the news is coming up. I haven't got time to talk about it now. I'll slip it in after the news. Guildford, hello, Josh.
Hello.
Josh.
How are you?
Good, thanks. Recovering.
Oh, hello. Sorry, you caught me in the middle of something.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, I'm back. That guy called up about the Conservatives going through the dangerous weapons policy, whatever it was. Do you remember him?
No.
I want whatever drugs he's on, Nick, because stabbings are at the highest rate ever.
Yeah, crime has not exactly gone down in this country, despite our very, very strict policy on drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want whatever drugs he's taken, please, because he's deluded.
A little bit deluded, yeah. Maybe he got strangled at a boxing gym, and
he got dropped on his head.
not enough oxygen is going to his brain. Yeah.
That was it, really.
Okay, sounds like you said it. Excellent work. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Graham the farmer says, would you expect a rise in minor parties? What? Under what circumstance? He says, I have spent many years in the rural sector and have always thought a national farmers' party could play havoc at a local and parish level, and with enough momentum, a strong competitive national presence. I think country folk are some of the last of the untouched by the rat race of modern society. They always say the best way to solve a problem is the look at it from far away. Is to look at it from far away. I don't think there's enough farmers to actually make a party that represents them viable. I mean, you think the Greenies would be right up your alley.
Yowza.
But their popularity seems to be stuck at 6%. I can remember when there used to be the 1% and the 2% party, so 6% is pretty good going. But, you know, what with everything going on, what with the news being what with the weather rather being a part of the news, not just an add-on the end of the news, I would have thought the Greenies would be, showing a bit more in the polls. But they seem to be stuck at 6%. But at the current rate of trajectory, they're going to be more popular than the Tories anytime soon. For obvious reasons, Bodge.
I can't comment on.
Can't comment on.
Blah blah blah.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
I am not one of your fans!
This text says, how do I get to Wandsworth? Have you seen the price of a large vodka recently?
What?
Yes. Yeah. Something like 1,000 litres of booze that the inmates in Wandsworth have distilled. How do you manage to do that? How can you keep that secret? I mean, they've got... I really don't understand that concept. I would like it explained to me. Never mind. Enfield, hello, Tony.
Hello there, Nick. Yeah. Nick, I can't believe the idea that the Conservatives will win the next election when it's... 13 years. We've had reports of nurses going to food banks. Mm-hmm. They've closed down police stations.
Yep.
I just can't believe that anyone would say, oh, yes, we want the Conservatives back in again.
Well, the polling suggests that a quarter of those who express the preference are delighted with the Conservative Party to the extent that they want 5 more years.
I can't believe it.
No, I can't believe it either. A quarter, 25% of those who said one way or the other would vote Tory, which means to me that considerably more than that will actually vote Tory on the day, because I think that there's a certain resistance among people to admit that they would vote Conservative. It's almost like... it's like not the done thing to say that out loud. But when it comes to being on your own in that plywood booth, I bet there's a lot more people that vote Tory than say they're going to.
13 to 14 years are almost of this government, and your very LBC programme, a woman phoned in and she got burgled. When she went home to the house, she found it had been burgled. She phoned the police. They didn't come to the next day.
Yeah. Well, I'm amazed they came at all.
I can't believe it. With all this, the economy, the poverty, 1 million children in the UK don't sleep in their own bed. Can you believe that?
Something like 4 million children are living in I don't know about relative poverty, but they're living in poverty. 4 million children in this country.
Absolutely, and some of them are living in cold. They can't even afford to put the heating on. No, I've never voted Conservative in my life. I wouldn't be able to go to sleep at night.
You couldn't live with yourself?
No.
All right. Thanks a lot, Tony. Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. There was a story kind of about that in the Mail today. It's one of those funny but not funny and finally stories. Millions of hard-up Brits are cutting back on showers and washing clothes less and sharing baths to save money on energy and water bills. It says an astonishing 43% of adults are taking fewer baths and showers, while almost half are washing their clothes less often to cut energy and water use, according to new research. But while many are risking being less hygienic to mitigate the soaring cost of living, 1 in 6 people are making cost-cutting fun and flirty without sacrificing cleanliness by sharing baths and showers with a partner or friend.
Disgusting.
And when it comes to washing clothes, cutting back is harder to inject fun into, says the Mail. Yeah, you can say that again. Despite the way this is written, and despite the fact that it's just a PR piece concocted for a website that claims to save you money, this is actually quite a sad reflection of where we are. people were asked by a stranger if they are washing less to save money on heating and water, and half said yes. This is the 6th richest economy in the world. And apart from the fact that absolutely nothing works here, absolutely no one's got any money, apart from a very few people who seem to have all of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no good being in a rich country if 99% of the people in that country are just about struggling or just flat out poor. And to take our minds off things that actually matter, the super rich who are avoiding tax by basing their operations in distant, secretive tax havens, the charlatans who talk about freedom and sovereignty while they're taking away your rights, and the asset strippers who are attacking the nation like vultures. To take your mind off all of that, and the fact that you now stink because you haven't had a shower in 3 days, Titchy Suit Size and Cruella Doberman and their acolytes and hangers-on and helpers and apologists and enablers, they're trying to make you concentrate on some bedraggled flotsam in a dinghy. What a way to wash a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Tower Hamlets. Hello, Mick. Or Mitch, rather. Mitch.
Hello,
Mitch.
mate.
Yes, Mitch.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Mitch.
Yeah, I originally called up to sort of talk about the Tory guy who was talking about drug policy in this most ignorant way.
Well, I think that he was trolling. I have had a call from him before, and I think he's just a troll.
I really think that, mostly drug policies have failed.
Everywhere they've ever been tried, it's been a failure.
And to be honest, I'm very surprised that the Tories haven't legalised it and taxed it, because that's the only policy that makes any sense.
Apart from the reaction that it would get in the right-wing press. That is, I firmly believe that is why they haven't done anything, because they keep instigating committees who will look into this issue, and every committee that looks into this issue says the exact same thing. The war on drugs is a failure. Let's do something more sensible. And every single time they say that, the Tories say, no, we're just going to stick with what we're doing because we will win the war on drugs. And by the way, we're going to instigate another committee who will look at it again. And in 2 years' time, and they've spent 15 million quid, then they're going to say the exact same thing. And around and around and around we go.
And put more people in prisons.
A lot of people in prison, yeah.
Yeah, but then I sort of was kept on listening, and then I just went, absolutely, this idea that Rishi Sunak is somehow winning the war on inflation is unbelievable, because 6 months ago he was saying there was absolutely nothing we could do about it because it was the fault of the appalling, illegal war in... Yeah,
it was a war in Ukraine, and it was a hangover from COVID, and it's, international circumstances out with our control. There's nothing we can do about it. And now he's kidding on like he personally is going to bring down the rate of inflation. There's nothing that he can do that can make that happen. Zero.
No, absolutely not.
Apart from taking credit for it, if it actually does come down.
And he's doubling down on that. By sort of kidding on, to use your phrase, I think that's a great phrase, that somehow prices will stop going up in the shops.
Yeah.
No, they won't. They just won't go up quite so much.
Yeah, no, he's saying that it'll be money in your pocket. They've actually used that phrase. If we get inflation down, it'll be money in your pocket. Now, they know that they're lying, but the annoying thing is they think we are too stupid to know that they're not telling the truth. That's what irks me, is how stupid they think we are. If inflation goes down to 1%, say, which is, beyond their wildest dreams, then it won't mean that prices have gone down. It'll mean they're still going up, just at a lower rate.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just basic maths, that is. Any fool know that, but they assume that we can't figure that out. It's so annoying.
And I think it's just 13 years of lies from various, I don't know, crackpots. That's just, I don't know. I think that probably describes the entire lot of 5 of them. Is it 5? Maybe it's 6. I don't know.
Yeah. An interminably large amount, yes.
And I just think we just assume we're just going to keep falling for this.
Well, there's a large number of people who do, who actively welcome it. I mean, I think that there's a wide streak of masochism that goes down the back of this country. We actually like the punishment. That's a British thing, I'm pretty sure. I mean, some countries have a sadistic bent. We have a masochistic bent. We love a bit of punishment.
I can't disagree with that. And I do fear, actually, that there are a horrible amount of secret Tory voters.
Yeah.
As you pointed out earlier.
I think that you should read those polls with a raised eyebrow, because I think that there's so many people that don't want to admit in public that they will vote Conservative because it's considered not the done thing to say that now. I mean, the party is on its way down, so you don't want to be associated with something that looks like it's failing. But when it comes to it, I think that people will have in their minds that, you know what, they're the party of, and they'll go back to how it used to be, how the Tories used to sell themselves to the country. We're the party of law and order, we're the party of low tax, and we're the party of free speech, and all of these things, which is the opposite of what they actually are now. But those messages are ingrained, and you think that is who they are. What do the Tories represent? Low tax. But we have the highest tax burden in history in this country now, but people haven't taken that on board. They still think of the Tories as they used to be, and I suspect that a large number of people will vote Tory who say at the moment that they won't.
I don't know. I mean, hopefully, I don't know. It just hopes that a difficult thing in this country at this moment.
And that is assuming that we will be allowed to have another general election, and I would not be remotely surprised if they cancelled it for our safety.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it. You are looking out for our safety. All right, thanks a lot, Mitch.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
0345 6060 973. Mark text, Nick, seriously, Michael Fabricant's hair. Tell me that isn't a criminal enterprise. Angela Rayner's hair is lovely and it's doing its best, so weave her alone, says Mark. And Luke says, has Yusuf Days changed your opinion on drum solos? Well, there aren't any drum solos on that album. It's a very, very good album. I've been listening to it on heavy rotation over at my place. Yusuf Days. Dayes, I think you'll find. And it's called Black Classical Music. Very, very good. You know what else is very good? The Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary on Netflix.
Affirmative.
I loved that. That was really, really good. And you know what else is excellent? Also on Netflix, the David Beckham documentary. I talk about that with Carol McGiffin because she turned me on to that on the podcast that I do with Carol McGiffin. Do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? Now, if you have an hour and you wish to be amused, it'd be right up your alley. Now, the idea is we try to solve people's problems. Got a problem? Send it to nickandcarol@global.com. NICKANDCAROL @global.com. Total satisfaction guaranteed. Satisfaction not actually guaranteed. Always read the label. Twickenham. Hello, Mark.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Mark.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
How are you? I'm just phoning up. There was an earlier point about Japan
and career in the drugs, and sort of about your last caller, second to last caller, and basically what you were saying, that drug use comes out of poverty, and I think I'd like to point out that a lot is about income disparity as well. So, the income disparity in Japan, when you go to Japan, is a lot less than in the UK. In the UK, we've got our super rich with lots of houses, etc. And in Japan, there's a paper published by the Centre for Research on Environment, Society and Health, which looks at the relative income disparity in the UK and in Japan, and it's massively different in the UK, where, of course, the disparity is much, much greater.
Yeah, I mean,
in Japan,
we've gone with the American way, which is winner takes all, rather than the sort of Scandinavian way in which you don't flash your wealth around so much, and you spread the money around for the benefit of the people, which makes happier people. HAPPY-ness, baby.
What a revelation. What a revelation indeed. But there's the other thing about Japan, of course, that, in fact, the Yakuza, the mafia, the Japanese mafia, they're in cahoots with the police. So the police let the Yakuza control certain parts of nightlife and extortion as well. Yeah. And there is a trade-off there, that the Yakuza control what drugs are actually allowed to be sold on the street, and what
like the mafia.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the mafia. So what the caller who works in a mental health hospital was saying was so completely way out, about career in Japan.
Well, let me restate my case. I have had a call from him before, and I think he's just a troll. I didn't really believe a single word he said.
But I have to admit that it is callers like that do make your show very, very entertaining, and like the taxi driver earlier who was talking about rugby. So, let's have more Tories on the show, I think.
Right. I'll see what I can do. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Nice one.
Cheers, mate. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Let me see now. Just so many texts and emails, I don't know where to begin, because I'm not going to get through them all in time. This one says, even you must know that someone with a title cannot be the leader of the Labour Party. It is preposterous to think otherwise. Well, I've had that thought. It's not doing him any favours, is it? Sir Keir Starmer. And I think that newspapers do insist on calling him Sir Keir in order to rub that home. I don't think they're being polite. I think they're using it as a weapon. It would be better if he didn't have the Sir part, Sir Keir. And if we were less of a forelock-tugging nation and we insisted that everybody gets to be referred to by their funny title. Linda in Barnet says, I like to go away for a bit of sun in the long, dark days of winter. Not much money this year, which is a shame, as I have found the perfect holiday in Rwanda. It costs over £5,000 for standard accommodation. Any suggestions on how I can cut costs? Yes, Linda, you need to buy yourself a dinghy and show up in Dover. And you can thank me later. Gary and Stain says, where's all the money gone? This week, Angela Rayner announced the formation of a new fraud organisation to get our money back from fraudulent contracts during COVID. I mentioned last week that the Good Law Project was already on it, says Gary and Staines. Yeah, you know what's going to come of that? I betcha, absolutely nothing. They'll take 5 years, it'll cost us 50 million quid, and they will determine that lessons must be learned. As a percentage, they might get back like 1% of all of that money. They just aren't going to go after it. I don't believe it for a second. Sue emails, I heard Fishy Rishi's message, which was for LBC's 50th birthday. 50th birthday! In which he says he loves LBC. I wondered if he listens to your show, or would it be past his bedtime, says Sue. Yeah, I seriously doubt he listens to this show. I'm hoping he doesn't listen to this show, or any of his people listen to this show. I'm hoping I'm too insignificant to deal with. Oh, that video, by the way, I mean, that was just... I mean... He's supposed to be leading this country. I mean, all of the problems that we have, all of the issues that need solving, everything that's broken, that needs mending in this country, that you would look to your leader to have some input on, at the very least. And what's he doing? Making videos about himself to stick up the internet. I mean, the video that went up there today, it was like being buried in a giant marshmallow. Titchy Suit Size tweeted, enjoyed chatting to people from across the country over a cuppa recently. Cuppa, C-U-P-P-A. Enjoyed chatting to people from across the country over a cuppa recently. We spoke about priorities, why I'm doing politics differently, and, of course, what I could be doing better. Have a watch. Well, I did have a watch. I watched a completely staged promo video of Titchy with a carefully selected group of normal-looking people who he pretended were taking him ever so gently to task while agreeing with him about everything that he said. And weirdly focused on stopping the boats.
The country's priority is to stop the boats. And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly focusing on stopping the boats. Yeah. And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities. Stopping the boats. And I think people know that I'm working night and day to stop the boats.
Stop the boats.
I firmly believe that that's what the country wants me to do. That's what the government is committed to doing. And we're working night and day to stop the boats.
Stopping the boats is his number one priority. And it was the number one priority of the people that were sitting around that desk with. Or they each had their own individual table, which was weird. He didn't want to sit around a big table with common people. Ugh.
Disgusting.
Dreadful. And the multi-camera angles and the soft focus lighting and the tinkly music in the background. Not like that. It was like a video for some drippy pop star. Hey, Fishy, you're not Harry Styles. You never will be. And the message was, apart from, please love me, was that Fishy is doing things differently. Well, no, he isn't. It's exactly the same gaslighting and pretending to care and saying one thing while doing another. It's just misinformation, mendacity, falsehoods, and fabrication. Liar! Exactly. And by the way, that line about chatting to people over a cuppa, who do you think you are kidding, Titchy Suit Size? A cuppa? I'd wager he's never said the word cuppa in his entire perfumed life. He'd probably sack the butler if he ever offered him one. He'd have him thrown into one of his bigger pools. And that popularity he so desperately craves, still eluding him. A recent survey has him polling slightly ahead of death by inhalation of vomit. Someone else's vomit. Still available on the internet if you have about 4 minutes that you don't mind losing. All of the things he could have been getting on with. All of the parties he could have been getting on with, but he spent the day shooting a video of himself. God. And finally, a text from Fran says, my mother's advice to our son when she heard he was going to learn to play rugby at school: if someone gives you the ball, throw it away, darling. Throw it away. My advice, don't show up in the first place. 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 Don't.